December 5th, 2019, to assist in any seamless transition as possible. However, they were advised by the board did not require them to be here today, as they will not be overseeing the remainder of the implementation of the audit recommendations. As the status of the audit recommendations is the only item on today's posted agenda, there's no reason for them to endure continued barrage of incorrect, misleading, untrue public comment that is expected to be sought here and malign and disparaging remarks by the board for the years. So that was their statement, Governor. My personal opinion. Also, I have a personal one. Let me share my personal.
Yes, please, you're welcome to.
I have publicly known you for 25 or 30 years. I know General Ford for a long time, obviously Mr. Sagaski. I stand right with General Ford when he was saying those statements. You've never been a man to hide. You've never misled anybody. And that's my personal opinion as Michael McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I appreciate it. And I can assure you that my staff will work diligently to replace the entire board as it stands. And while I say I do have thick skin, and I, in my 20 years of public office, have been subjected to a lot of criticism, I will defend the integrity of my staff to my last breath. So when they are attacked, I take that personal. So thank you, Mr. McDonald. I appreciate your comments. And I guess I'll ask Audit to move forward.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, Warren Lohman, Administrator. For our 6-month follow-up status report of the audit 1904, which we presented to the committee in June, of the 4 recommendations, we've assessed that all 4 are partially implemented. The first recommendation to strengthen oversight of investigative and enforcement activities had 3 components. 2 of those 3 are fully implemented to the extent that they have made decisions. I would note that the one component to increase the board's pool of general dentistry DSOs, investigators, in Southern Nevada is no longer applicable. However, the actions of the board took approximately 30 DSOs, and they hired 1, based on their minutes, part-time investigator to conduct those activities. Those numbers in and of themselves are suggest that further work needs to be done in that area, and given our review of the minutes and the process that the board went through to make that appointment, that would be another area that we would suggest they need to work with the Ethics Commission to ensure that that process meets full ethics law in conducting. The second recommendation to consult with the Commission on Ethics to avoid conflicts of interest. While the board believed they had fully implemented it, we believe that is still partially implemented. Again, there's more extensive and deeper work that needs to be done with the Commission to assess processes, to assess some outcomes of how they conduct their hiring process, and we would look forward to seeing that completed within the next 6 months. The remaining 2 recommendations, complying with state contracting requirements and Nevada Administrative Procedure Act, there are draft regulations that the board had been working through, and that work at the board level had not yet been completed, and we agree with their assessment that that is only partially implemented. That concludes my overview. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions regarding the audit or its findings? Do we have any questions down south regarding the audit and its findings?
No, Governor, there's nobody here that wants to talk about this. But I do want to say that the auditors are awesome, and they did a great job in my office, and I'm very happy with, as I've said before, what they've done.
I am too. I'm thrilled. We can't thank you enough, and I will ask that these recommendations, my staff will work with the newly constituted board to make sure that we get ethics training up front and refresher on open meeting law and those sort of things. And if we can work with General Ford to make sure that that happens for all the new people coming on, we might be able to avoid some of the problems moving forward with the newly constituted board. Any more comments? Treasurer Koenig.
Director, how do we ensure that this information gets passed on to the new board and that they continue to follow up? And we spoke about this a little bit, but how do we make sure that we've got that continuity?
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Warren.
For the record, Warren Lohman, I believe there's going to be sufficient oversight and guidance.
Rest
going
assured,
forward.
there's going to be sufficient oversight as we move forward.
Okay, I'm good.
That should not be a problem.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do we, this is for you, Governor, do we have like an estimated time that we're kind of thinking about when this board can be filled and operational?
I know that we had applicants for the 3 that I did not reappoint. I will work with my licensing and boards individual. We don't have a large staff. I have 1 person that handles it, and we did 80 appointments last month, but these will certainly be moved to the top of the stack. And anyone interested in serving, you can go online and apply online for these positions. Several of these positions are categorical, which means they need specific requirements in order to fill a slot. And ask anybody that's in the industry or whatnot to take a look at those and see who might be interested in applying and moving forward. But we will do it as expeditiously, yet thoughtfully and diligently as possible.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate that. So now I'm going to go to agenda. Let me find where I'm at here. I took some more out of order.
6A, Governor.
6A? 6A. Thank you very much, Warren. Appreciate it. Okay.
Good afternoon, Governor, members
Good
of the
afternoon.
committee. For the record, Mark Richards. The reports today are the first annual follow-ups on the status of implementing recommendations that were still outstanding after our 6-month reports. Item 6A is a follow-up to our boards and commissions audit that focused on the oversight of salaries, legal framework, and financial and administrative operations of the independent licensing boards. There was one outstanding recommendation to comply with statute and guidelines for salaries. The boards had not implemented the recommendation, pending an opinion from the Attorney General as to whether the boards were subject to the statute that limits the salary of a person employed by a state agency to 95% of the governor's salary. The opinion issued by the Attorney General in December 2018 concluded the boards were subject to the statutory limit. Accordingly, the boards have since fully implemented the recommendation and are now in compliance with statute. Exhibit 1 of our report lists the salaries, wages, and benefits information for all executive directors and other positions with a salary of $115,000 or more. We thank the boards for their assistance in preparing our report. This concludes our overview for item 6A.
Thank you. Could you remind me of what the recommendations were to the EBEC committee regarding the original audit on the independent occupational licensing safety boards?